to the homo ludens, and I think that's probably also another angle. Then the interplay in our case is essentially dealing with territories and inventing, recording, mapping, questioning territories as, again, an extension of the urban. That's what we're going to do today. Again, mainly in the art field and not so much in the architecture, but again with a kind of designing approach. Just as a kind of reference and for further discussion where this ecopoia come from, obviously doesn't come from the dictionary because it's a word that we invented. It's basically what we call the eco-trilogy, with the possibility of putting together production, knowledge, and management within this trilogy, the economy, the ecology, and the ecopoia. And as it's referred to the notion of production, maybe can get rid of this design word. Okay, let's start on project and have that in mind. Valerie, do you want to start on this one?
Yeah, we choose My PRD Stories, which is maybe the first large-scale art project we had the occasion to install inside the Guangdong Museum of Art in 2005. Was somehow the result of many years of research, again in the Purva Delta, taking different routes. And My PRD Stories was consisting in 10 different stories, taking us from Hong Kong to Guangzhou and even further to the mountain in Nanling. The first, maybe if there is one image to resume our practice, it would be this one. When we arrived in Hong Kong, we, especially Laurent, had a fascination for the port, for a container, this kind of very smooth, fluid mechanism we were presenting the other day. And we had the chance to be able to jump on one of those boats. This photo is titled Back Home with Baudelaire, and it's really shaking our identity and position in Hong Kong. In fact, we could get on the boat in the port of Shenzhen, with all the complication of getting out of China, not using a normal border as everyone. So we had to get out of China to move from the port inside the boat through Shenzhen, which was first complication. Then back home, in this case, was to go back to Hong Kong from Shenzhen, which is very next door, but we're doing this kind of very nice loop through the hundreds of islands which are in this South China Sea. And Baudelaire was the name of the boat. The boat belonged to CMA, first company, French company, and they have many boats, Verlaine, Baudelaire, each with the name of a French poet. So this photo is also part of a group of projects, a photo called Honeymoon. This was taken from the window of our bedroom, and we had this kind of magic view all day long with this very stable yet unstable territory of container in front of us and a moving landscape. So we contributed in two ways, mainly for this Guangzhou Triennale. This was also for Hanru and Hans a continuity of Cities on the Move, a project we missed because somehow we were too young. It just started when we arrived in Hong Kong and starting to work as architect and artist. So this for this second edition or extension of Cities of the Move, they asked us to operate with two things. First, to see whether we could come with an idea of an exhibition design, because the museum is brand new, solid, new marble floor museum, was really rigid to fit their light, dynamic, kind of Asian city atmosphere they wanted to bring in. also with very limited budget, which something also we like to take as a challenge. So we came with this idea that we would use the workers around Guangzhou during this week off they have in October, the Golden Week. So the one that were not able or not willing to go home, we could give them, the museum could employ them and ask them to recycle pieces of used timber that they use for the construction site, build this 1 square meter wooden pallet and bring it to the museum. So after 1 week, we could collect with almost zero money 1,000 of those pallets that they stack outside the museum. So it could be 1 kilometer long wooden floor or a tower of hundreds meters. So with this pile of wooden plates, we started to imagine how to cover the whole museum, and basically we let most of the artists use those as stage, seating devices, floor covering. So this kind of interaction also that each artist was not only bringing his own work in the museum, but also starting to manipulate the landscape. The title of this piece was called Crossing. Also, we wanted to bring this instability that we found in the Delta. When we walk in our exploration, we never walk on something very flat and smooth. We always, there is this difficulty of walking through. I mean, there are holes, there are liquid areas. It's very difficult, and we wanted to bring this difficulty of walking through the PRD in the museum. So here you can see the crowds walking through this very unstable territory. Also, the sounds of a foot on the wood was very important. The second piece was to bring back home with Baudelaire, and I will show later to put it in perspective with the other. This is well, you cannot see much here. This is the entry of the mouth of the Pearl River Delta that the boat is aiming to, and Guangzhou is basically at the end. And there was this very nice view in the museum showing the river. So really, we wanted to bridge Hong Kong and Guangzhou with this. We set up 10 containers that were presenting 10 different work. Moving along from Hong Kong to Guangzhou, and the photo in the background was somehow stitching those stories. On the top you can see this, the two windows, one showing our room from above and the view on the river.
Then another project, another territory, which remained the Pearl River Delta in this case, but allow us to explore new ways to deal with this territory, was the superhighway, the link between Shenzhen and Guangzhou. Basically, the Rotterdam Biennale asked us to do a research, and we transformed this research into a project. When we started this research, mapping this territory and the highway,
it's very light.
There was not so much maps existing. Then we have basically to build them, and that's probably why we call Map Office, because we're doing map first. And exploring this highway, documenting this highway, what we find immediately that the highway was basically the link between the factory and the port. And basically the highway was an extension of the assembly line. And another thing that we find is also that the highway was dividing vertically the territory in two parts. One, the global world, which will be on the top of the highway, that usually any one of us will only take, and with a kind of 120 kilometer speed, and never stop, never go out. And underneath the highway, which is a local space. And what we find on this underneath this highway is basically the opposite. Is the opposite of this acceleration, of the global acceleration of the assembly line and the made in China. And this guy, ironically, lying on the grass with his bicycle crossed with his leg, witnessing or observing the spectacle happening above him. Then that was a kind of starting point to deal with this territory, this difference between the global world and the local ground. Then that was expressed with this assembly line. We cannot see anything here.
I don't know if we can put less light on the, because we are losing 80% of the image each time.
You have the assembly line here. Basically, this man becomes this lying man under the highway becomes the kind of emblem of the icon of the Biennale. And our response when the Biennale asked us to do the research was to build a model, a design model of this highway. And when we arrived with this assembly line, tilted assembly line, they were asking us, but where is your model? And we say, this is our model, the assembly line. Then we divided the world in two, one which is the top of the assembly line with film on the made in China factories and the territory moving, and a little theater where population, migrant workers can enjoy and rest while they are not working. And few illustration of this where the idea of the assembly line come from. Then this brings something very interesting that is linked to our first comment, this eco-trilogy, where basically here we have another form of economy, what we call the informal economy, which become as more important probably in terms of urban life or social life that it generates. Then this is next to the highway, or this one under the highway. And here it's a restaurant, and instead of eating individually in your home, basically you eat collectively here, and you're watching TV. What you don't see much is that all the people are here around this side here with a fridge, a DVD player, and a TV. And if the film that is shown doesn't fit your taste, you can change to another table. Then what we observe is also this kind of what the shape of this informal economy and this light structure, this light architectures as probably more informative than the heavy concrete architecture. Then documenting those things. Also kind of evaluation of the goods that is consumed under this highway. Then in the same continuity and exploring what we call the underneath, and that's probably goes back to yesterday's presentation or today's presentation, the exploration of underneath with this project, which is a 63 ring road walk in Guangzhou city, where basically we have this ring road which becomes the kind of separation between the city that try to go outside and the countryside that's to come inside. Then it becomes basically the ground where those two forces started to meet, what we call the zone of contact and therefore the zone of conflict. Then our project here was basically to document all the possibilities of activities that can exist in this ring road, and try to find kind of new dimension, new domains. Again, you have the entertainment place, but also the place where you dispose things. and was a kind of flaneur type of walk under this linear structure. Then that was presented in the lightbox format, ring roads of lightbox, explaining the various conditions of this specific territory.
Okay, we'll take the following project. This is a very small part of this huge project that Ai Weiwei presented at the Documenta 2 years ago. It was a moment where we were doing the project for the Venice Biennale, and somehow we get lost in the process of our project, and asking help from Weiwei in form of discussions and dialogue, going very often to Beijing to see whether he could help on our project, and he said, yeah, that's fine, but then I would also need some help on mine. And in his case, he was working, it was a time when he was very busy trying to organize the departure, the visa, etc., of 1,001 Chinese who never traveled to spend a week in Kassel and to see the biggest art event, somehow to answer this question about what is art today, I mean, and providing this opportunity for this 1,001 to travel. We were mainly concerned, and we were telling him, that's fine, you're sending them there, but how you are going to grasp this experience? How you're going to collect traces of this experience? How will you visualize this experience? And he said, I have no idea. First, I'm trying to make this experience happening, and my head is busy on that. But if you have some idea of how to visualize the invisible, you're welcome. So the first thing he asked us to do was to design a logo. But maybe I will go back on that, where we cannot see the image underneath. Yeah. It's okay, then I will pass. So basically, I will start here. Basically, he asked us first to design the logo so that there will be kind of a sign and recognition for his piece, then a product, then a platform, and a map. That's the whole 4 things that we designed for him. For the logo, we were asking him, again, this number issue, the 1001, was having particular resonance in our minds. And we were asking him about how do you name them, how do you count them? I mean, don't tell me that everybody will receive one number and say, no, everybody will be the one. So there will be the one, the individual, there will be the community, and in between there will be fairy tale, the 1 equal 1001. Fairy tale also 1 equals forming the F for fairy tale, but also for faith, fake, and fuck, which are somehow the 3 motto of Weiwei at that time. So we came with this logo, and this logo quickly became something that was stitched on suitcases, bed sheets. Also, we proposed, we were quite fascinating to observe in Hong Kong a group of people working in the jungle to make photo and to print them within a certain spot in Hong Kong and working with the Chinese tourists. So we thought that maybe we could bring this kind of mobile platform in Kassel, and that each of the participants to this event, of course, will do photo, and then at some point we'll need to collect them to save them in a as a form of memory. So we decided to design a memory stick for them. So this memory stick in different colors, in different gigs, was somehow used as a memory collector, so that each participant will be using a video camera or photo camera, will put his data on a computer and save them in this memory stick as in form of bracelets. which by extension also became for them a kind of pass, where we negotiated, because they were the only one having it, that they could take any public transport in Kassel, just showing their bracelet, could enter any museum for free, just showing the bracelet. So the bracelet was really used further than the memory collector. So that's the memory collection. That's the mobile platform we set up. A kind of independent office using batteries, printers, computers that we located in different parts of the city, so that participants could download and save their photo, and also then as a group printed and developed small exhibition in the space where they were sleeping every evening, sharing the information. And then the last thing was to do a map, which was completely crazy from our side, because first thing, was our first time going to Kassel, and the map had to be produced before. We had to do a map for the Chinese going to Kassel, and as you can see, we are not Chinese, so we were doing a map in Chinese of a city we have never been. Anyway, using Google Earth and starting to collect by exchanging with different people data about Kassel, where to swim, where sport activities can happen, shortcuts, Chinese restaurant, etc. Numbers of things we were thinking that the participant would need, and put them on the map in a form of logotype. Also, the main axis of Kassel was this big kind of caesura in the map, in a way of folding it, was becoming an object where also the participant could take some notes in a small book format. Then what we were looking, the idea to go there and to witness this very particular project was basically to reflect on what could be this type of new economy. The status of migration today also was very important for us, and basically today in the world we have two types of migrants. There are the migrant workers, I don't know how many.
140.
In China, but globally it's very, very important. Basically there are two types of migrants, the migrant workers and the tourist consumer. One is producing, one is consuming. And we're thinking, of course, neither of both things would apply on Weiwei's 1001 participants. So we decided that they could become something else, something that used to exist, and which is about knowledge, touring knowledge, sharing knowledge, and we call them the 101 New Pilgrims.
Then, for the same document, we've been asked to do a project about socialist village in China, and our answer was basically, actually we're going to have a lot of problem because most of the following slide will be drawings. Then I think it's not the light.
From the light.
It's too. It's far too bright. More. Remove everything almost. Yeah. Yeah, it starts to be better. Then, yeah, we've been asked to think about the socialist village, Chinese socialist village, and what could be its shape in today's world, in China's today. And the idea was that basically we will have 5 characters that will travel around China and imagine a new possibility, kind of utopian possibility to install new villages. And while they are moving into a place, like in this case Hong Kong, they start to discuss, have a dialogue, and start to dream, to conceive new spaces. And while they're doing that, they realize that what they are talking about is really an utopia, basically. Like, for example, I do love the idea of skyscraper farming, even when pigs are involved, and that's referring to a project by MVRDV, a Dutch group doing a pig farm on skyscraper. And the last one saying, I have some relative living here, means basically if he has some relative living here, means it cannot be a farm. Then they explore the vertical village as a possible new socialist village. They went to also, they start to think global. This is an entertainment space in Shenzhen. It's a splendid China. Theme park, and here we could build a model village in the theme park, which is already existing, and finally the tourists will come and visit us. We will be respected because that's very important. I hear some filmmakers shoot a film here last year, referring about Judge Jenker, and one start to dream about being an actor. Then here it's exploring the Pearl River Delta and the coexistence of different reality on this ground that is constantly moving. And again, immediately while they're discussing, they realize that there is a lot of rubbish here and that nothing can grow here and so on. Then the fact that there was mountain before, then sharing a dream. This is in the Three Gorge Jam. All the places, of course, being kind of particularly selected in order to express some momentum of China's development. Then here, around the Yangtze River, they find out that next to the river, but never be flooded, my village in my castle means basically the new town that they are building over there. And instead of using the traditional tools, changing them for a club or golf club. Then in Beijing they try to integrate the socialist village within the city. And they want to move into the city center, but one say that Beijing is really a dry place and nothing can grow. But the other one say that we can shoot clouds to make it rain. And at that time, nobody wants to believe us that the Chinese could do that. So one say we could have free irrigation, and the other one start to think that they can do grow organic vegetables for artist village, which is actually really existing. And the last spot they've been, it's the further future is the train line in Tibet, where they finally say that no, nothing can grow over there, nothing can live in this part of the world. Okay, that's kind of exploring various territory and trying to rebuild this socialist village. One of the important moves in our experience of territory is embedded with this series of projects called Pixel, and it started in 2006. And Pixel is basically what we call a wish space, or, excuse my French, but I will say an other minute area of illumination. And that's very interesting because when we read the definition of pixel, one British will read an other minute area of illumination, but as a French we read it minute, means time instead of scale, and we immediately realize our mistake, but we like this idea that pixel could be a space-time under special lighting condition, and that was a kind of referring to Walter Benjamin. Then who is pixel? Pixel is basically a little character, a minimum character, an illumination that will allow us to highlight some points in China, and to build up, to go out of what we can see, the reality, to construct fictions, and of course it's coming from this travel in hyper-reality by Umberto Eco, and also Italo Calvino using this little particle QSFD, SQD in cosmic comics. Then, having said that, we started to move from the photo of, our work was mainly concerned with photo and video, to move to drawings, line drawings, and of course redrawing allow us to be more selective, and also to insert a fictional possibility into the reality. Then that's one of the fragments of the Pearl River Delta that nobody can see from a photo, but that we can reimagine using drawings. Then that was coming from, this is, for example, one particular situation that Pixel is meeting, and it's coming from, it's a T-cell, it's coming from a kind of old traditional technique of representation in China, of economy and activities. The storyteller, this is a telephone booth for migrant workers to call their village. The portable city, the food on wheels, the dream seller between the magic box and the DVD player stand, not DVD player, the DVD seller, and started to recombine all of those and start to build a narrative. Then immediately after that, we move Pixel into a more constructed narrative that we call Unreal Estates of China. And that becomes a book where basically text and drawing start to merge together. And being more systematic on the cataloging, inventorying all the various citizens of this territory. Then that's what we call generic people. That's more specific people, friends, and even including us. Then what to do with that, as I was referring, this idea of interplay, we decided to do a game book and to play with and to also learn from. And the first game book was a hide and seek type of books, where basically it's this game, the Wally game. Basically, you have various components from specific people to generic people to informal economy, vehicles, and buildings, and you have to look for them inside the drawing. In the same time, we always hide ourselves in the drawing, because what we are researching for is basically ourselves. Then the game book number 2 was a word search, combining image and word together, in order to explain the Pearl River Delta always, and that's the logic. The third one was a game book 3 called The Treasure Quest, looking for a treasure, moving along the various conditions of the territory, from the golf course to the gated community to the walled village and so on, and the port, ending at the port. Then the last game book, there was 4 only, was a coloring book, and basically we were coloring the people that we usually do not see. Then kind of formalization of this project was done for the Sydney Biennale, and we've been given a kind of glass cube and fill up the whole cube days and night with video animation and also print inside. And the idea was that we will fill up the cube by imposing China on another reality. This is a place where a kids' school are going to have a view of the harbor, Sydney Harbor, and we were giving this space to fill it up. And what we did was basically to play with a kind of transparency and putting a film on the top that will represent those specific conditions of the China territory. But this film will be transparent as well as reflective. Then either you are in front, strictly in front, and you are reflecting yourself, or you are far and you can see through. But what is important is that China is imposing itself on any given territory. Then think clean, and then starting to play with this blurring in this case. Then the migrant workers being shot by us on the top of the Sydney Plaza. Then another version of Pixel took shape in the traditional Chinese scroll, which there is a book we did on that where you can see the scroll, and was really the original inspiration of it. And the last version of it, and I will stop after that, was extending territory for the Shenzhen Biennale 2 years ago, where basically we were printing this territory and imposing it on the new ground. Then distributing this unreal estate of China as a kind of new manga for China, and also proposing the kind of dream image of the architect and the planner, Valerie holding the map of Shenzhen, which becomes Shenzhen capital of the 21st century, and I'm disguised in Louis XIV. This is a traditional image of Louis XIV supervising Versailles. And the architect is behind us. This is famous architect in Shenzhen, Urbanus. They are taking notes of the king. The curator is behind Valerie, observing. It's Machinun. And you have various people watching what's going on. And what's going on is basically in relation to what architects are usually doing, is erecting building on the countryside, and that's probably what Shenzhen is about. Right, the last project.
Yeah, very quickly, because it was, so that was the other part. While we were discussing with Weiwei, we were preparing the Hong Kong pavilion for Venice, which was a very complicated story for us. First, the idea of representing a national pavilion, then the idea of representing Hong Kong pavilion was kind of very problematic. It was also the time when we were very little in Hong Kong, but spending most of our time in China. And we were somehow dreaming of doing the Chinese pavilion, not the Hong Kong pavilion, like the frog that wants to be bigger than it is. And after various steps of the process, we end up in this territory, very specific in the north of Hong Kong, which is basically a farmland for oyster shells, for oysters to produce oyster sauce. This land is very particular. Since 100 years, the farmers are cultivating the oysters and throwing back the shell after taking the animal into the water, and somehow they have reclaimed hundreds of meters gained on the sea in this part of Hong Kong. And you can see in front, that's not Hong Kong, that's Shenzhen. So basically, was one of the first video work. We reclaimed 1 square meter of land, throwing oyster shells into this sea, and we were wondering whether, if everybody was doing that, we could make a bridge to reach China. So always doing this Hong Kong project with the idea of reaching China. That was the installation in the courtyard in Venice. the courtyard of a Hong Kong pavilion, which was basically, we shipped 2 tons of oyster shells from this place, from Lofoten, in Venice. And we had the idea to fertilize it using misters, and we inhabited this island with parrots. That was in reference to Tagore's famous poem, famous critique of colonialism, The Parrot's Tale. So those parrots were speaking 5 languages and telling stories to the visitors. But that's not the story that I'm going to show here. You can see there is a lonely parrot with a trolley, which is at the entrance of this pavilion. And this project, we wanted it to be double. So, okay, fine, we're doing the Hong Kong organic islands filled up with parrots, but we really want to have a piece in China as well. So that's our lovely parrots, the oysters. So we came with this statement, Hong Kong is in Venice, but map office is in China. And if you remove the 2 elements which are not important, Venice and map office, you have Hong Kong is in China. At this time, 2007, very close to the opening date of Venice, was the 10th anniversary of the Hong Kong retrocession to China. So we thought that a way to be part of the Chinese pavilion would be to bring a monument and to celebrate this 10th anniversary. So lucky enough, the curator of the Chinese pavilion this year was Ho En-ru, a very close friend curator that we were working with at many times. And we somehow sent him, knowing that we will embarrass him, this very official letter to see whether he could accept our gift to China, our monument to celebrate the 10th year anniversary. So we put him somehow in a position that either he refuse, and then it will be kind of very embarrassing diplomatically for Hong Kong to be refused by China. Either he would accept, which was the easiest but yet difficult part for him. Either he would rent 1 square meter of a Chinese pavilion, and we were very, very, very curious to see how much it was worth. So at that time, Pu Henru was struggling to get Shang Wan Yongping's wife, who has a French passport already in his exhibition, and there was a big melodrama with the Chinese government to get her in his show. And we came with this letter. He was very pissed, but he had no choice than opening the door, let's say. So this is the process of taking the monument to China. Luckily enough, the Hong Kong pavilion is just in front of the gate of the Arsenale, and to reach China we have to walk 1.2 kilometers in the Arsenale to reach China Pavilion, which is a beautiful garden. So this is already in, but was the most complicated story was not basically to move from Hong Kong to China, but was to pass another border, a kind of border we never imagined that could exist, which was the Italian border in between Hong Kong and China. And this photo is the second attempt. We have half an hour of recording, which is fantastic, explaining us that we belong to Hong Kong and we have nothing to do in China. And this is said by the security in the Arsenale in Venice. So again, moving territories and trying to reinvent, to extend Hong Kong in China elsewhere was kind of important move for us. So we are slowly arriving.
We are passing Africa, yeah.
Yeah, we're passing Africa. We had the first time representation in the Arsenale. So there was a lot of countries in between Hong Kong to go to China at that time. Arriving in China, we were wondering where to put our pavilions. So again, we feel very close to Portefaix, and she was really at the rear of a garden with what she called personal pavilion. Also, she had problem to represent China, and we found a very nice cherry tree. Portefaix had this kind of PLA army guy to help her to set up a pavilion. So they were helping us to roll our monument under the cherry tree. Very quickly, the monument was appropriated by the public and became very useful as as a place where to change diapers.
Then, yeah, a few weeks later, we had an exhibition in Shanghai where we could not physically bring the monument to China because it was still in the China Venice, but bring the process, and finally Hong Kong. I mean, Map Office was really this time in China, in the museum in China. And the last project as a kind of further extension, and probably to emphasize, to echo what Achille mentioned briefly yesterday, is what we call the third landscape. And this was a project we did in Israel, and you can say, but what's the relationship with the Chinese territory? Basically, this project was an invitation to do to have an art intervention in the village, Arabic village of Ain Hod, which is probably one of the first independent Arabic village in Israel and not in occupied territory. Then we went there, and with the idea that we will build garden, we'll create a landscape. Never been there before. Then the first things we do is to look at the landscape and start to select. And the idea, you start to understand our logic, being obsessed with 1 square meter as a measure. We decide to build 10 square meters of garden in each family of this village. The particularity here is that the square meter, the garden, will be planted with Chinese seeds. The reasons to do that was basically the original reasons why to bring Chinese on this ground was basically when you have two components that are usually a kind of fighting or of conflicting each other, the best is to bring a third one, then the two of them will focus on the third one. Then the third one in that case was the Chinese represented by the seeds. Then the first thing we did was what we call action planting, selecting with inhabitants selecting Chinese herbs or fruits or vegetables and prepare the land. It's action planting and develop the 1 square meter, and then after harvest it and enjoying it with the community. Then that's echo to Achille's comments on this extension, this further extension of the Chinese territory. And then that's the third landscape here. Then, okay, that's for the presentation. Without interruption, we would like to carry on with the presentation of not the last project, but the project that we spent a lot of time recently on, the City of Production, a fabulous opportunity to experiment with positive capitalism. I think it's very important to talk about that. And in order to illustrate that and probably to, again, provoke further discussion, we'd like to show a 52 minutes film. We'll probably cut before, as we are restricted by time. But let's look at it, and then we can discuss after. Should be here. Yeah. Can we switch?
The city of production, a fabulous opportunity to experiment with positive capitalism. How does the city materialize? How does the production happen? How to achieve a work and life balance? How to achieve a balance between work and life? These are fundamental questions with which to set up a story. The city materializes when complex social relationship can take place. The city materializes when a critical high density is reached. The city materializes when it offers a multiplicity of activities. The city materializes when one can live and work together. Production happens when work is being done. Production happens when outcomes are tangible. Production happens when a certain level of standardization is reached. Production happens when we can live and work together. Overall, the city of production is about balancing life and work. First of all, it is said that workers need to work. In one way or another, everyone has to produce. One can say that production is the result of work. But apart from a process, what is work really? Remember Aaron's text, The Human Condition. She suggests the differentiation between labor and work, meaning a distance between the effort and the result. Capitalist production cannot fulfill the requirements of the self. The idea of labor is embedded in the conception of life. The labor maternity room hears the first cry, the child's first breath. So life could be the starting point for defining work. Without life, there is no work, therefore no production is possible. We visited many factories in China where work was happening. There we could truly observe workers and labor. In that way, we understood the result of work. After many visits, we could not see a product without thinking about the working process, without seeing the labor of hundreds of pairs of hands, without ignoring the resulting pollution of the made in China phenomenon. But here we want to narrate another story. In this heavily industrialized territory, we discovered a model factory. There we found a unique alternative to current capitalism, a positive capitalism that reveals some encouraging news. The city of production looks like a Danwei. It can easily be mistaken for a standard factory. It includes working units where the production occurs. It includes dormitories where the workers' lives occur. Then it is easy to argue about the absence of the city. But we prefer to look at it from a new perspective. In the early 1960s, Olivetti experiments with utopia in Italy. He created the Comunitat, a new breed of production systems. After a couple of years, his city of production failed. Not enough links between life and work, an excessive paternalistic approach. a kind of revival of the old company towns. Olivetti's project was maybe too advanced for its time. Capitalism was not yet leading the world. There was still some room for a new dialectic. The idea of a socialist space was not new. In France, Fourier and others have already developed models. But their bright intentions again failed. They failed, as they were overly insulated and rational. Yet their project served as a laboratory for another life in work. When Marx and Engels wrote the manifesto of the Communist Party, they had a clear objective in mind. The conditions of life within work was the center point of the proletarian revolution. So as a worker, one has only two alternatives: to work or to fight. Fighting is not an easy path, so many choose to work. Work assures the basic and daily needs. In any case, there is still not much room for life. At the beginning of the Communist period, Chairman Mao called for the help of Soviet experts. They were so skilled, they managed to reduce the minimum living standard of a working unit by 30%. Since standards were already very low, China entered an era of scarcity. Based on the experience with a grassroots life in military camp, Chairman Mao and his companions learned how to combine activities. To live and to work, to fight the enemy. To go back to work, to teach and to learn. To be self-critical, to go back to fighting. The Soviet experts were not the avant-garde anymore. A decade earlier, Stalin had already killed most of them. From then on, everyone would work and live under the same roof. Could be a nice idea, it just depends on the size of the room. The Soviet experts reduced it to 3.5 square meters per person. No wonder the system failed. How one can live in such a tiny space? They were sent back in 1960, but in China, the implementation of their plans continued. Working units replaced traditional Chinese cities, and the Danwei became home for 90% of the urban population. It took less than 10 years to transform this original model into a standard. Every moment of life was accommodated within the same walls. All the basic needs were provided by the system. As long as the residential permit, the hukou, was valid, one could stay and work for years within the same unit. Do not forget to work. How can one forget when it is the only thing to do? Drawing the radiant city with a rational approach, Swiss architect Le Corbusier divided the day in 3 portions. 8 hours to produce, work. 8 hours to recover, sleep. 8 hours to maintain and entertain the body and brain. Eat, clean, learn. So that all the basic needs were covered by his new urban plan. Lean production or just-in-time management will be adopted much later. By that time, Chairman Mao created another initiative regarding production. The third line strategy was intended to disperse the industry from the city centers. 30 million workers were sent to work in remote regions, in the mountain area, dispersed and in the cave, according to Lin Biao. 30 million workers who changed their lives in this new working place. Initially, Chairman Mao wanted to modernize China. Let's all produce. Let's all contribute to modernization. Workers were asked to produce while the peasants were asked to support the workers. But still, not enough work was being done to catch up with the giant project. Let's all stop consuming. Let's all concentrate on working only. One goal, but no perspective for the workers and the peasants. And nothing to consume anyway. For some reasons, the rationale behind Chairman Mao's motto is still unclear. How one could lead an entire nation to produce industrially, without having heard about the systems of Taylor and Stakhanov. This could be another failure from the Soviet experts, but we have some doubts about it, as it was probably easier to keep the fear in line. Workers should be working as they naturally do, and modernization would occur in its own time. Or it could have been simply a fear of modernization, as this would naturally promote capitalism, as any form of management implies a form of capital. Then, in this case, Chairman Mao was right. Let's ignore the managerial techniques and keep on pushing the workers. It was somehow much easier to manage the masses. And of course, workers need to work anyway. Outside China, people began to starve to consume more. The West became arrogant with its frenetic consumption of commodities. But isolated in their development, Chinese workers continued to work. Chairman Mao initiated another project with a simple idea in mind. Let the peasants work like workers. Very good. As everyone knows, the Chinese are very entrepreneurial. Peasants started to build new townships and work like workers. Very quickly, yet another rural industrial zone replaces a rice field. So let's move on to the next part. But this is already Deng's achievement. Where a rural workers became part of a new added value. Most of them had to spend their time controlling the machines. Add nothing but value. Let's eliminate the waste. Focus on the people who can add value. This was just after World War II, when Toyota visited the Ford factory. Obviously, Japan was ruined and had to look for a way to revive itself. The move from production to management techniques suddenly changed the rules. It indicates the transition from modernism to postmodernism. It shifts from a rational production to the management of chaos. And more than ever, workers had to work. When Deng started his reforms in 1978, he promoted the idea that one can get rich first. Therefore, everyone wanted to get rich at the same time. Peasants made capital out of their previous assets and transformed the former township into rural industries. China entered a new wave of massive urbanization. Villages were transformed into cities and cities into urban regions. Deng implemented his plan with an invitation to foreign capital. It took no time for overseas Chinese to build the new factories. Workers came from all over China and immediately started to produce. Let's all provide work for the Chinese workers. The Made in China concept was built in less than a decade. Manifestly, it is now the biggest brand in the world. Millions of hands began to produce in a frenetic rhythm. The more produced in the factories, the more to consume in the cities. Except for the workers. They are not consumers yet. It will come soon with the individualization of the masses. The city of production started in Hong Kong in the 1960s, and the successful story of the Made in Hong Kong label. Goods produced in large quantities and low prices moved to China in the 1980s for more competitive manufacturing. On the way, the Chinese left tankmen standing alone, building an image of individualism instead of democracy. Workers came from faraway provinces and construct the Pearl River Delta region. A new working community was built on the spot, ready only to work. Today, 140 million workers make up the young floating population, continuously moving from one factory to another. As the Pearl River Delta region began to fill with factories, the number of workers followed the same trend as the market, moving up. In 1992, Dan came for his last visit to Shenzhen. Helped with a stick, he walked through the newly built avenues. He missed Hong Kong retrocession in 1997, also China's WTO global package in 2001. But he could appreciate the achievement of his last project. Shenzhen was already booming with factories and high-rise buildings. Now let's go back to the city of production, where thousands of workers are dying, knitting, rolling. Some are packing, inventorying, transporting, while others are sorting, cleaning, planting. In any case, the workers are still working. In the city of production, everybody is controlling something. It is the city of total control. Workers are controlling everything. Broken thread, speed levels, water pressure, and gas arrival. Some workers are also in charge of cleaning. In the city of production, everything has to be clean. The ground, streets, machines, plants, vegetables, dishes, water, and the air. All in their 20s. These workers' stories are more or less the same. They share the same desire to be rich and glorious. Deng told them to do so, and they believe it is possible. Certain that beyond hard work there is a life. Somehow, somewhere. Every working day at dawn, around 7, workers moved in line towards the gates. They moved to their retreat, to their life. They do not have to go very far. Life is part of the same complex, just across the street, behind other gates. Just 2 electronic gates to pass through. Out of work, towards life. Beep, beep. A cash dispenser is located at the exit of the working unit. They queue in line to get their freshly earned cash. On the other side, the brand new supermarket catches the workers. As they enter the living complex, the loop is complete. Workers always carry an ID card. That includes an electronic account. No handbag, no wallet, no paper, no coins. At the cafeteria, the meals cost the same. One beep at the entrance. What else do they need? The supermarket just opened. An analysis of the commodities on sale can explain much of the worker's life. Most are small, cheap items. More than half concern the body: soap, shampoo, hygienic napkins, brushes, razor blades, cream, and makeup. Everything to take care of oneself. Health and well-being are the most important factors. All other necessary facilities are included within the complex. Most exist to propose a life app.
Okay, maybe I stop here because it carries on. Just a few words. It's a film that is done in 3 parts. You saw the first one, work, and articulating ideas around the development of the communist period under Chairman Mao. And the second part is life, and it's addressing, that's the one that we're seeing. It's addressing mainly the development of Deng Xiaoping, and the third part is ecology, and it's looking at the development of the harmonious society under Hu Jintao. And basically, it's kind of trilogy that we are unfolding within the same complex, one single factory. That's why all the images are from the same factory and sometimes related to the text or not. There was a problem because it should be stereo, and here we're missing half of the sound. We didn't have the sound of the machine or whatsoever. But anyway, and we're unfolding only at the last part, the ecology. That's where we explain what is the definition of positive capitalism and probably the construction of an harmonious society. Thank you very much.